The lightsaber is easily the most iconic weapon in all of science fiction, and has been a fan favorite for nearly half a century now. But did you know that this weapon comes in a wide range of shapes and forms? In today's video, we'll take you through every single lightsaber type that's been featured in the Star Wars universe. The standard lightsaber is a signature weapon of the Jedi and Sith alike, but it can also be wielded like a regular sword by beings that are not force sensitive. The standard lightsaber features a single plasma blade, powered by a kyber crystal, which is usually colorless but gains a pigment when approached by a Jedi depending on their connection to the Force. Meanwhile, the Sith wield red blades to distinguish themselves from the Jedi. This is achieved by a process called bleeding, where they use the dark side of the Force to corrupt the kyber crystal, literally making it bleed. When combined with the Force, lightsabers are nearly unstoppable, being able to cut through virtually any material aside from other lightsabers. But what makes lightsabers truly remarkable isn't just their cutting power, but their sophisticated construction. The kyber crystal not only provides energy, but also creates a contained plasma loop that returns to the hilt, which is why lightsaber blades have finite length and don't continue infinitely. The plasma containment field also explains why lightsabers can clash against each other rather than passing through. The crystal's force sensitivity means each blade is truly unique, resonating with its user's connection to the Force and even influencing the weapon's weight and balance during combat. Icons like Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Yoda wielded these sabers, each customizing their hilt to suit their fighting styles. An experienced Jedi wielding a lightsaber can be a threat even outside melee combat, as they've been known to counter ranged weapons by deflecting blaster bolts back at the enemies who fired them. But not all Jedi are naturally gifted like Rey and Luke, and many of them must learn the ways of the Force over 2 decades before even attempting the Jedi Knight trials. The training lightsaber is essential for teaching the basics of dueling without the risk of serious injury. These are typically used by younglings and sometimes by Padawans, while they study under a more accomplished teacher. To minimize any collateral damage, training lightsabers emit a low-power blade that prevents burning or dismemberment, but will still cause pain following a strike. We see these lightsabers being used in the Attack of the Clones, when Master Yoda trains a group of younglings in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Following the gathering, a Jedi will give up their training lightsaber and begin constructing a proper weapon of their own. Many Force wielders, especially among the Sith, adopted unique lightsaber styles to gain an advantage in combat by confusing and unsettling their opponents. We'll look at a few super unique Sith lightsabers later on in this video, but the first spot has to go to Darth Vader's iconic dual-phase lightsaber. This variant contains 2 focusing crystals in the hilt, allowing the wielder to switch crystals and adjust the blade's length mid-combat, surprising the opponent and forcing them to adjust to the new blade length. Now, Darth Vader rarely needed to resort to lightsaber tricks as he had a wide range of abilities in his arsenal, such as using the Force Choke and Force Pull during battle. In addition to his Force abilities giving him an edge over average Jedi Knights, he was also a gifted swordsman, and had the combat prowess to take them head-on. Darth Vader uses his dual-phase technique, most notably in his duels against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker, as these were enemies who he could not overwhelm with skill alone. From one overpowered Sith Lord to another, our next lightsaber type is Kylo Ren's signature Crossguard Lightsaber, which uses lateral force projections to create a crossguard similar to a European longsword. The decision to create a crossguard was more of a practical consideration than an innovation from Kylo Ren. During the process of bleeding to turn his lightsaber red, Kylo Ren's kyber crystal cracked, causing an unstable energy output that would have made his hilt overheat during battle. The 2 smaller side blades would dissipate the extra energy, offering not only hand protection, but also additional offensive options. We see Kylo Ren using his crossguard to do damage when he battles Finn in The Force Awakens. The Sith Enforcer engages Finn in a bind, and drives the crossguard into his shoulder, inflicting a painful burn. While Kylo's unstable blade, reflecting his inner turmoil, is an iconic example of the Crossguard Lightsaber, this was actually a well-known design even before he adopted it. Prior to the Great Scourge of Malachor, crossguards were used by Makashi practitioners among the Jedi Knights, and Jedi Master Stellan Gios also wielded a lightsaber with a collapsible crossguard during the High Republic era. The Crossguard Lightsaber was featured among the Sith ranks as well, with Darth Atreus dual-wielding a pair of Crossguard lightsabers. Atreus' lightsabers were infected with his rage, making them prized weapons in the Empire even after his death. Dual-wielding is a great way to pressure your enemies by forcing them to defend 2 blades, but Darth Maul's famous double-bladed lightsaber is without a doubt the cooler way to do it. As the name suggests, this saber has blades on both ends of the hilt in the middle, offering a wide range of unorthodox attack options. However, if one blade is deactivated, it can still be wielded in the same style as a standard lightsaber. Jedi Knights such as Keeve Trennis have also wielded double-bladed lightsabers, while among the Sith, Asajj Ventress could combine her 2 lightsabers with curved hilts to create a deadly double-bladed weapon. While the double-bladed lightsaber is a formidable weapon, its complexity demands exceptional skill from the wielder to truly master the double-bladed fighting style. Furthermore, one of the main reasons we don't see double-bladed lightsabers too often is their critical weakness to being struck down the middle. Obi-Wan Kenobi used this technique to destroy Darth Maul's lightsaber during their battle on Naboo, while a shot from a bolt put Jaro Tapal's lightsaber out of commission in a similar fashion. The Inquisitor Lightsaber was another popular double blade that was distinguished not by its appearance, but by the fighting style that accompanied it. As the name suggests, this lightsaber was used by the Empire's Inquisitors, and featured a hilt with a circular guard that housed the two blades. This construction allowed the Inquisitors' double-bladed lightsabers to spin rapidly, creating a defensive barrier that prevented regular lightsaber users from getting too close. The members of the Inquisitors employed these weapons to hunt down surviving Jedi, most of whom struggled to handle the blade's movements, as we saw in the battle between Kanan Jarus and the Grand Inquisitor. The wind generated by the spinning could even enable short-distance flight, as we saw when an Inquisitor escaped from Maul during their battle in Star Wars Rebels. An upgrade to Maul's double-bladed design is the hinged double-bladed lightsaber, which was seen wielded by Dark Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. Featuring a hinge in the center, this saber can be folded for easier storage, and does not suffer from the drawback of having a fixed hilt in the center. The hinged version is also a more versatile weapon, as the orientation of the blades can be changed so they're both facing the same direction. The Wayseeker Orla Jarini is one such user who fought with a pair of parallel blades hinged at their hilts. This type of lightsaber is best suited for aggressive attackers, as evidenced by the most notable hinged double-bladed lightsaber wielder, Jedi General Pong Krell. Krell dual-wielded a pair of these lightsabers, giving him a dizzying total of 4 blades, and an impressive record of war victories. On the subject of dual wielding, there's no way we could ignore the Shoto Lightsaber, also known as the Light Dagger. This blade is ideal for smaller combatants who cannot realistically wield a full-size saber. Jedi Masters such as Yoda, Yaddle, and even Piel have demonstrated that Shoto blades are viable in battle, with their longevity within the Jedi ranks spanning many centuries. The Shoto is ideal for users of dual-wielding techniques like Jar Kai. When Ahsoka Tano purified the Six Brothers Kyber crystals to produce her signature white lightsabers, she modeled one of them as a Shoto. Tano used the Shoto as her offhand weapon, leveraging its ability and precision in combat. Some Jedi Knights found even more innovative uses for the Shoto, such as Durban Winherd, who developed a unique style of dual-wielding Shoto blades. While the Shoto demonstrates the advantages of a shorter blade, the Lightsaber Pike is its opposite, leveraging the benefits of having longer reach. Resembling a spear, the Lightsaber Pike has a longer hilt and is the signature weapon of the Jedi Temple Guards. In its charged form, the Lightsaber Pike is slightly taller than the wielder, making it great for defensive maneuvering or crowd control. There are 2 variants of the Lightsaber Pike that have been featured in the Star Wars franchise. The first is a double-bladed pike with 2 long yellow blades on either side, and was wielded by the guards featured in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. The second variant features a long shaft, similar to a spear with a Shoto blade at the end, resulting in a weapon that's about 2 to 3 meters long. This version of the Lightsaber Pike was used not only by the Jedi, but also by the ancient Sith Lord Darth Bane. Bane's lightsaber had an unconventional red-orange blade that curved and shone almost like a flame. A version that even rivaled the Lightsaber Pike in terms of size is the Great Lightsaber, also known as a light club. This saber is deliberately oversized so that its full potential can only be brought out when wielded by larger species. The Great Lightsaber requires a few modifications to be usable. The blade is equipped with heavy-duty power and emitter systems to handle the high energy output, and the hilt is reinforced to withstand the user's heavy strikes. Even though the Great Lightsaber's massive blade delivers powerful strikes, it sacrifices speed and can be awkward to wield, which is why even human-sized fighters typically avoid using this lightsaber. With its thinner, lighter blade, the Lightfoil represents the opposite of the Great Lightsaber's combat philosophy. Its minimalist construction with a one-handed hilt made the Lightfoil ideal for dueling and was popular among aristocratic users such as the Saber Rakes. Being designed for more finesse than brute strength, the Lightfoil was a favorite of the practitioners of Makashi, the form known for elegance and precision. In Star Wars Legends, some members of the Macrossa Order were known to use Lightfoils, and they were often considered a mark of refinement. If the Lightfoil was all about elegance, the Light Whip is about chaos. This flexible lightsaber was heavily modified with plasma blades held within flexible containment shields, allowing it to function more like a whip than a sword. Due to its unconventional movements, the Light Whip is incredibly hard to block and nearly impossible to predict, making it a nightmare for traditional lightsaber duelists. During the Sith Wars, the Light Whip was used by the Jedi as they found it could counter many of the forbidden lightsaber forms that gave the Sith an advantage in traditional duels. Light Whips reached the height of their popularity during the High Republic era, with notable users like Vernestra Rwoh and the Night Sisters of Dathomir adopting this weapon. However, the Light Whip had two major drawbacks that prevented it from becoming more popular. Due to its thin, flexible blade, the Light Whip had a weak power output that made it unsuitable for cutting and heavy strikes. Furthermore, using a Light Whip required considerable skill, as its flailing movements meant that the blade could always come back and hit the user if not wielded carefully. In Star Wars Legends, Lumia, a dark side Force user trained by Darth Vader, wielded a Light Whip that combined energy tendrils with physical cords, giving it slicing and bludgeoning capabilities. Before we dive into more cool lightsaber innovations, let's take a look at the lightsaber that started it all. The Proto Saber was the ancestor of the modern lightsaber, and honestly, it had all the raw power but without the convenience. This weapon required an external power pack connected via a cable to the hilt, which would emit an energy blade. However, due to limitations in power pack technology, the Proto Sabers had poor operational times. Adding a larger power pack made it clunky and harder to wield in agile combat. The Proto Saber's power cable linking the hilt to the power supply also limited movement, forcing wielders to adapt to slower, more methodical fighting styles. We saw versions of the Proto Saber in the Star Wars Legends continuity and in concept art. Jedi of the Old Republic like Odin Ur wielded these primitive blades before the invention of the Kyber crystal-powered lightsaber made the backpack obsolete. The Force Saber is another artifact from lightsaber history, but this time with far less honorable origins. This ancient weapon was developed by the Force Hounds of the Rakatan Infinite Empire, long before the Jedi ever got their hands on Kyber crystals. The Force Saber was powered entirely by the dark side of the Force, with the energy being forced through an ebon crystal to produce a blade. Because of its dark nature, the Force Saber was eventually rejected by the Jedi, who used the design to produce the cleaner Proto Sabers and eventually Kyber crystal-powered lightsabers. But make no mistake, this thing was powerful and wielded by early Force cults within the Infinite Empire. Even though it was only used by the forces of evil, the Force Saber featured an undeniably cool design. However, very few blades can match up to the coolest custom saber of them all, the Dark Saber. Forged by Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian Jedi, this ancient black-bladed weapon is flat like a traditional sword and hums with raw energy. It's a powerful symbol among the Mandalorians, with possession of the Dark Saber granting the right to rule Mandalore. We've seen it pass through the hands of Pre Vizsla, Darth Maul, Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan Kryze, Moff Gideon, and even Din Djarin. The Dark Saber almost has a mind of its own and attempts to form a connection with the user, reacting heavily to their will. The blade becomes more resistant the more you fight it, and grows heavier or lighter depending on whether the connection is rejected or embraced. Unlike other lightsabers, the Dark Saber was highly sensitive to the user's emotions, making it a weapon that demanded not only strength, but focus and courage. While the Dark Saber was a Mandalorian artifact and a weapon passed down across generations, some unique lightsaber designs only survived in the hands of their original users. One of the most sinister designs among this class of weapon is the Stranger's Trick lightsaber. This unique weapon was wielded by the Sith, known as the Stranger in the Acolyte. The Stranger's lightsaber can split into two parts, with one becoming a Shoto blade. It also allows for quick adaptability mid-fight, letting the wielder switch between a dual-wield stance or a standard lightsaber dueling style. However, the Stranger used his smaller blade not for the sake of versatility, but as a surprise weapon, as evidenced by the way he executed Padawan Jeki Lon. This lightsaber is the kind of weapon that thrives on confusion and deception, perfect for a Sith whose whole deal is throwing their opponent off balance. Our next unique design is Ezra Bridger's first lightsaber, which demonstrated that the young Padawan was much more than a Jedi. He was a true innovator at heart. In Star Wars Rebels, Ezra received his Kyber crystal at the Jedi Temple on Lothal, and fashioned it into a hybrid weapon that allowed him to fire stun bolts and ignite a lightsaber blade from the same hilt. This was a practical decision in many regards, as Ezra was not confident in his ability to deflect blaster bolts with his lightsaber blade, and needed an alternative to engage in firefights. Furthermore, using a lightsaber in the era of the Galactic Empire would have been too great a risk for Ezra, so the blaster function would allow him to conceal his identity as a Jedi. This blade was wielded by Ezra on many of his early missions, and also by his master Kanan Jarus in his fight against the Grand Inquisitor. This blade was finally destroyed by Darth Vader himself, after which Ezra built a more traditional green lightsaber. His first lightsaber reflected Ezra's unorthodox upbringing and tactical creativity, and served as a symbol of his adaptability and youth. Kanan Jarus, Ezra's master, took a similarly cautious approach to stay hidden after Order 66. Kanan Jarus' lightsaber could be disassembled at a moment's notice in order to hide his identity as a Jedi. Jarus often kept the emitter cap and activation switch separate from the hilt, making it look like an ordinary tool rather than a Jedi weapon. It was a clever way to avoid detection, and it reflected Kanan's internal conflict, struggling to live up to the Jedi Order as just a Padawan in a galaxy where the Jedi were nearly extinct. While Ezra and Kanan Jarus lightsabers were constructed with concealment in mind, Sith Lord Dark Noctis' sickle-bladed lightsaber was deliberately designed to intimidate her foes. This lightsaber has a curved, scythe-like shape resembling a scimitar that allows for hooking and sweeping attacks. It's incredibly rare and only wielded by dark side users who prefer unorthodox and fear-inducing weapons. Together with Dark Noctis' dark demeanor amplified by her hood and cloak, the sickle-bladed lightsaber surely would have struck fear into the heart of any Jedi that encountered it. Just like the sword it's modeled upon, this saber design is ideal for exploiting openings in an opponent's guard and for disarming or destabilizing opponents mid-duel. Switching from ruthless aggression to a more balanced fighting style, we have the Tonfa lightsaber, which is inspired by real-world Tonfa batons and features a handle perpendicular to the blade. This lightsaber variant is great for defensive techniques and close-quarters combat, as the grip allows for a wide range of jabbing, slashing, blocking, and trapping techniques that are impossible with a regular grip. Users can hold the hilt vertically to guard themselves while using sweeping arcs to strike. This saber type saw use during the Imperial era, with the most notable user being Maris Brood, who dual-wielded a pair of Tonfa lightsabers. While it's a perfect weapon for someone who wants to blend defense with offense, the Tonfa blades can be hazardous in the hands of an inexperienced user, as the risk of hitting yourself in the face with the blade is pretty high. Furthermore, since most defensive actions require blocking with the Tonfa handle, it had to be reinforced with an expensive lightsaber-resistant metallic component called Frick. Most of the designs we've covered so far are variations to the blade that change its use in combat. However, the Kanan lightsaber was designed specifically to serve a function outside of battle. This lightsaber disguises itself as a walking stick, making it ideal for Jedi and Force users living in secrecy or simply reaching their later years. The elderly Jedi Master Tera Sinube wielded one of these lightsabers during the Clone Wars. The saber cane was also famously used by Darth Maul during the reign of the Galactic Empire, and he would attach a piece of wood to the hilt, pretending to be a feeble old man with a cane. Whether Jedi or Sith, the cane provides the perfect element of surprise. Enemies think they're attacking an old man, only for a blade of pure plasma to ignite from the shaft. And finally, we have the most unusual lightsaber of them all, so unorthodox that you might wonder if it even counts as a lightsaber. The Far Killer is a rare and extreme lightsaber designed for long-range assassination, basically functioning like a sniper rifle. This weapon was created by the Jedi Crystallis Varwil, and wielded by Jedi Master Uob, who used the weapon to make preemptive strikes on potential threats from hundreds of kilometers away. The Far Killer operated by channeling energy into a concentrated beam that could shoot across vast distances, functioning more like a railgun than a blade. While Uob was recorded having taken out hundreds of emerging Sith Lords, this didn't go down well with the Jedi High Council, who immediately excommunicated both Varwil and Uob, bringing an end to the Far Killer's combat use. And that's every type of lightsaber featured in the Star Wars universe. How many of them did you know before clicking on this video? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below.